Hello everyone, Mike here with you guys once again, and I wanted to discuss a topic that was brought up recently, and that is story overrated in video games? Well, I'll just tell you my experience on gaming recently. I gave up gaming around after the N64, and I didn't think about it for many, many years. And as I was spending a lot of years in the music scene, obsessing over that, and until I quit, and I started watching movies a lot, and then I started watching anime, and then I started watching video game clips on YouTube, and was like, wow, it's like an interactive movie. I need to be a part of this. Watching it isn't enough for me anymore. Let me be in. Let me be in this. And so I got back into gaming and been into it ever since. So my answer to that is no, I don't think it's overrated. I do think it depends on the type of experience you want to make. Obviously, if you're making something that is meant to be story-driven, like a Bioshock game or a Naughty Dog game or a David Cage game, then no, I think a story is essential. I think it helps make the experience. Now, I wouldn't necessarily call those types of things games. They're more interactive. They're more interactive media. I think we're getting to a point where the technology is outgrowing the what I'm beginning to think is an outdated term, video game. You know, I don't really look at Bioshock or I certainly don't look at David Cage's games like Beyond Two Souls or Heavy Rain as games. You know, games are basically, you know, an objective-based, you know, have fun, do this, or if you fail, you die. Whereas something like Beyond Two Souls is just an interactive form of storytelling. So I think the technology and the way that we're experimenting now is outgrowing the term video game. You know, I don't think the term video game should apply to all of it. Now, do I think that every thing needs to have a story? No. Obviously, cell phone games don't need a story. Fighting games don't need a story. In fact, story got in the way of the original Dead Space. It was my not Dead Space. Dead Rising. It got in the way of the original Dead Rising because all I wanted to do was roam around the mall in an open world, killing zombies in as many different ways as possible. And the story got in the way of that. So, Dead Rising is one of the few rare examples where I was like, let's get on with it. I want to play. So not everything needs to have story, and but there is definitely a place for story in this medium. So it depends on what you're trying to do. So do I think story is overrated? No. I think there's a place for it, and it depends on what you're trying to make, what type of experience you're trying to put out there. So that's my take on that. That was a quick discussion, so I think I'm gonna go on to another topic now that's been on my mind recently, and that is, does every game need a single player? Well, no, I don't think it does. Just not every game needs multiplayer. Not everything needs to have both tacked on. Now there are games that benefit from having them both on there. You know, there are certain games that I feel do it well. I mean, The Last of Us, yes, the multiplayer I felt was tacked on, but it was done very well. But oftentimes when you tack on something like single player or multiplayer, it brings down a game score. For example, Tomb Raider or Battlefield, and it affects the final score of the game because they have to look at the entire package. So having something tacked on poorly can hurt what is otherwise a great game. But it looks like we're getting to the point now where developers are realizing that not everything has to have both on there. You know, there are some games that are better with just single player, like the Bioshock Infinite, and then you have a game that doesn't need that Bioshock Infinite does not need a multiplayer. It's fine with just single player. But on the other hand, Titanfall, I don't think needs a single player, because some games are meant to be multiplayer and some games are meant to be single player. And you can take your pick. I mean, right now, what are the two big exclusives out right now this month? Infamous, PS4, single player only, versus Xbox One, multiplayer only game. which is Titanfall. So it depends on what you want, and so I think developers are figuring that out. I think it's first when I first heard about Titanfall being multiplayer only, I was like, oh no. Well, at first I was like, okay, that's no big deal. But then I heard about the bots, and I was like, uh-oh, maybe this is an excuse for DRM. Well, this certainly crossed the minds of certain publishers that I won't mention. But in the end, I think it's not about that. I think it's just about developers coming to realize that not everything needs to have both a single player and multiplayer component to it. Now, and that leads me to my third topic: length. Length of game. There's a big deal right now. With there was a big deal about that with the BioShock Infinite DLC, Burial at Sea Episode 1, and now everybody's scrapping about that with Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. My take on that is this: it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And sometimes certain developers, Ubisoft in particular, is guilty of this. They will stretch their games so much and make them so long that it hurts their story. And it hurts what otherwise can be a great story. Far Cry 3 is a perfect example of this. They literally put unnecessary missions in there just to give you more gameplay, to maximize the amount of time you have to play the game. And that can hurt the story. So that's something that needs to be... I don't think they need to do that. I think not every game has to be super long just to justify the $60 price tag. I think you can have shorter experiences. I mean, Journey is a masterpiece, and it's very short. You can literally go through it one playthrough, and it is phenomenal. It's the impact, it's the quality, it's what you get out of the experience that matters. Now, whether or not every game should be $60 is a whole nother matter, but I personally don't think everything needs to be... There's no certain length that should be met in order for a game to be considered complete. Just like you don't have to have every single mode in a game in order for it to complete. What matters is the game good? Is it fun to play? Does it impact you in some way? So those are the things that we need to be focusing on as gamers and as a community. So those are just my opinions. You might disagree, that's fine, but those are my thoughts, and yeah, that's all I got to say for now, so I will talk to you guys later. Bye.